Hello YouTube, this is Millennial Markets. My name is Jared. To my left I have Jacob Wiseman here. And today we're going to be going over the
survey of consumer finance.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm looking at your screen. Basically what we're going to do today, just kind of a more leisure video. While Wiseman looks at this graph, he's just going to ask me some basic questions. We're kind of going to compare opinions and just have a good discussion. At the end of the video, I'll make sure that this link is in the video for you guys to take a look as well and kind of tickle your own fancy in that regard to see what you want to see.
Yeah, so every 3 years the Federal Reserve does a survey of the U.S. citizens and asks them financial questions. So their income, their assets, their liabilities, and then they plot it on a chart. So this particular chart, or when they began, was 1989 and the last one was in 2019. The next survey of consumer finances will begin actually towards the end of this year, or no, maybe it's already started. It might be through March, starting in March all the way through December or something. Either way, the data hasn't came out yet. That will be posted in the year 23 for the year of 2022. But before that comes out, we want to talk, and I can't wait for that data to come out because we've just had a lot go on. We had 2020, COVID. I mean, there was a lot going on there, so I don't know how that particularly affect the data, but maybe by 22 where they do the surveys, maybe a lot of that came back to a little bit normalization, I'd say. It'll still be cool to see how some of the new intricacies of the economy and globalization have affected the United States average person's finances. Now, going forward, I'm just going to put this out there. When we're talking about the average person, we're actually referencing the median of the data. And so that's a little bit different statistically than, say, the mean or the true average. And I use the median because I believe it to be the best representation of a large statistical data set in which there tends to be outliers in that data set. So when I'm talking about like the average of this, just know I'm referencing the median. And if I'm not referencing the median, say I want to look at something, I'll be like, oh, this is the mean of that. So that's a statistical word for average. Now in this video, pretty much, I think you guys are going to really enjoy it because it goes over so many facets of a consumer's finances that you'll be able to compare yourself, and it's distributed by certain categories. So some of these categories are all family, so it's everybody, right? Percentile of income, the age of a person, the family structure, so if you're single or you're married, and if you have kids or not. The education of somebody, so if you have high school, some college, or a college degree, race or ethnicity, which we'll also get into and look at. Housing status, so whether you rent or you own, and your percentile of net worth. So there's all kinds of things that you can look specifically at. And so if you want to compare yourself, say like I am single and I have a college degree. That specifically represents me, so I use that as an example. But I can specifically go and look at how I would compare to the average person in the United States. And with this video, I'm going to kind of test you guys, and you can follow along as well and try to compare yourself. I mean, who doesn't love comparing themselves to the average person? But try to like guess some of these statistical truths that the Federal Reserve has come to. So we'll start off with before tax family income, and this will be all families, guys. So what do you think the average family in America makes, Jared?
Average family in America, my guess would be, I'd say around 55,000 a year.
And that's pretty close and respectable. The average or median here is about $59,000 in the United States, and that's about what you would expect. So, but let's kind of see how these change a little bit. So we'll start here by the age reference. So somebody who's in our age group, and I imagine that some of the viewers, which haven't looked at the data yet, but probably are under the age of 35. So for a lot of these, we'll use under the age of 35, and then for some statistical categories, which I find to be very important, that would tend to lean more heavily towards somebody who has a little bit more age on them, say 50-year-old, 60-year-old. Come the retirement ones, like the retirement accounts, we kind of want to take a look at those, right? But what is the before tax family income for somebody under the age of 35, Crain?
When you're saying family, like household income?
Yeah.
Or is this individual?
These are actually individual. So this is going to be somebody individually who is under the age of 35.
Okay. Sorry, repeat the question one more time.
Yeah, the before tax family income of somebody under the age of 35.
Before tax, that gross pay, I'd say around, that'd still be fairly close. I would say around that 48 to 50.
Yeah, 49,000. This is gonna be a pretty interesting one. Oh, here, I wanted to include this. So, this is based on college degree. So if you have no high school diploma, if you have a high school diploma, you have some college or a college degree. Now, this is where some of the biggest striking differences come into play. And Jared's only looked at this so far, so I'm not even going to ask any questions for this, but all the other ones Jared has not seen yet. So, for somebody without a high school diploma, their average income before taxes is about $30,000. So some people would be like arguing for trades and whatnot. And I guess for somebody who does not have a high school diploma, that would probably be the way to go, because you're probably not going to get many other skilled jobs out there without having a high school diploma. So maybe that would be the way to go. But $30,000 is not a good way.
From when I worked construction, I might be remembering incorrectly, but I feel for those trades, you still do need a high school diploma or a GED. So
that is true. Even so, yeah, it seems like recently, like probably I'd say, I'm only 24, but from what I've heard from some of the old heads is that in the past like 10 years, it seems like a lot more jobs just require you to just have a diploma, even if for no good reason whatsoever.
Just to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say that's actually a pretty good point, Jared, that you bring up. A high school diploma and some college are pretty similar. So if you go to college, you probably need to finish your degree. Because the difference between having just a diploma and some college is only about $5,000 a year. So $46,000 to $51,000 a year. And I imagine that your some college is probably going to be a little bit worth more than that, say $20,000 for even 1 year. And the difference isn't really worthwhile. So if you're going to go through with it all the way, because here we see that a college degree on the median, for all ages, by the way, is about $96,000. So this obviously isn't you coming out of college. You can't expect $100K coming out, right? But let's say you're 35, you have 10 years of experience, you have a bachelor's degree, you're moving up into managerial positions. This is where a lot of that's going to be represented. And I find that really interesting, that somebody with a college degree, on average, will make almost double, not exactly, but almost double, than somebody who has only some college. It's a really neat thing to notice.
I guess on this graph, it just kind of came to mind, are you able to separate, like, I mean, is there a difference with that college degree between like an associate's and a bachelor's, or are you just going off of a 4-year degree? Yeah,
so that's a great question. College degree, I don't know if, that is one of the things when I was looking at this data, is I was kind of hoping that it would differentiate some of the categories within that, but I'm assuming that a college degree also is inclusive of an associate's degree, because that is a college degree, and I'd imagine that the Federal Reserve does consider that to be a college degree.
Okay.
But underneath in the notes, they don't state any of those specifics, so they don't actually go through and describe these graphs, so you kind of have to take it as it is. That's just unfortunately the way it is, because I definitely had some questions in regards to that. I think it would be really cool specifically for this to differentiate between an associate's, a bachelor's, and say a master's, and even a doctorate degree, because I bet you the doctorate degrees are going to have a little bit more of an impact here, I'd imagine, especially, and this is just the median, so it's going to be a smaller percentage. I guarantee if you take the true averages of this, I bet you that skyrockets like 30, 40,000 with those doctorates. Last one we'll go over here before we kind of start going a little bit quicker through some of the other stuff is race or ethnicity. So you have white non-Hispanic, black non-Hispanic, Hispanic, and other. Other is probably all-inclusive if you don't fall into these three groups, presumably. And here there are again some really interesting things. So I'm not going to have you guess people's ethnicities and what they make. Instead, I'll just say it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
So here, a black non-Hispanic and a Hispanic individual tends to make $40,000 on average. Other makes $56,000, and then white non-Hispanic makes about $70,000. So it appears that if you're white non-Hispanic, so us, you tend to make a little bit more than the average person, and then you get into probably questions of inequalities. Seems pretty questionable here. This is the data, so clearly there's something to be said for the data. I don't know exactly what, but I'm sure that there are some things to definitely be said about that. We won't discuss the intricacies of particular racial data. I'm just here to give you that information, do with what you want, and this will probably be the last time that we look at race or ethnicity. We'll probably be looking at some other groups going forward for other things. Now, one of the most interesting things I find here is here under net worth, right? So we're going to go just strictly age reference of person, the median net worth of the American citizen. If you are under the age of 30, I can't let Jared look at this. Yeah. If you're under the age of 35, what's the median net worth, Jared? The average net worth of somebody?
Under the age of 35, I would hope that you would want your net worth to be at least $10,000.
So the average is about $14,000.
Okay.
And that's inclusive of 18, 20-year-olds. But I would argue that it should be higher than 14,000. And no, this is the data, but I'm arguing that you should strive to have much, much more than that. Because say you're 30 years old and you are saving even 15% of your income, you should have at least saved $20,000 by the age of 30. You really should. By the age of 35, you should probably be wanting about $50,000. You should really be striving for those bigger numbers. And think about it, guys. I mean, how many people do you know who actually invest? And if they do invest, they don't know what the heck they're doing, or they don't invest in anything really at all. So it's like, are they really investors to begin with? This is representative of that group. And I think that's really important to take note in. Now, the big granddaddy of them all right here, guys. So for people at retirement age, for the 65 through 74-year-olds, what do you think the median net worth of those individuals is? The most important one, when you're coming to retirement, what do you think the average U.S. citizen has in net worth?
See, I want to say what I think it should be, but I believe it's going to be way lower. Average net worth, 65 to 74. Oh, I would hope you'd at least have 200,000 net worth.
Yeah, they do. It's 266,000, but you got to probably take into account a lot of that net worth probably comes from equity in their home.
That's what I was going to say. It's that'd be coming from equity because you would hope you'd have.
And that's why I wanted to talk about this, guys. A 65-year-old on average, 65 through 74, only has a net worth of $266,000, guys. That is absolutely atrocious. Okay, there's just no other way to put that. It's horrible. I mean, what else do you have to say? But I mean, what do you think about 206,000? So you said that you have an idea in your head and that you're going to gun for a little bit lower because maybe we assume that the average individual isn't probably taking the financial steps that they need to. But I mean, even with that included, what do you think the average person should be having as a net worth then by the age of retirement?
At the age of retirement, you should at least have $1 million to your name.
It's got to be at least $1 million. It's got to be at least.
It has to be. You've had your whole life. You've had all these plans. I mean, and especially right now, if we're talking current day and you're 65 and you only have 266,000, I mean, that is definitely most likely equity in the home, but even that's still upsetting because I feel like you could have a lot more equity in that home as well.
Yeah, and there's a huge spike from the less than 35 to 35 to 44 range, from 14 to 91, and then 91,000 when you're 45, right? Or 45 to 54?
Yeah.
But after that, it kind of like tapers off a little bit, it seems. And it's just like, people make good money, they saved a little bit. It just seems like they really didn't do much with it. It looks like equity building to me, is just numerically looking at it. That's the only assumption you can make. They don't break it down like, actually no, they do break it down. Let's take net worth by somebody who rents their house versus who owns their house. And I bet you there's going to be a really, because we believe it's going to be equity, so let's take equity out of the equation.
Yeah, let's see it.
Yikes,
I'm
yikes,
not gonna
yikes,
look.
yikes.
I'm not gonna look in this one.
Oh, brutal. Okay. This is probably one of the most telling statistics I've ever seen. Honestly, this is a very big deal in my personal opinion. The average renter, what do you think they have here?
The average renter at 65 to
No, there's
74?
no age. This is just your average
just
renter. This
average
includes
renter.
all people renting
For their net worth.
for their net worth.
I'm gonna have to say, just by your reaction, I might overshoot. I'd say 50 to 75,000.
Yeah, no, you're not even close.
I'm not even
You're
close.
not even close.
Lower.
Way lower.
Really?
Way lower, yeah. So if you're
Wow.
a renter, your median net worth in the United States, guys, is under $7,000. So this is as of 2019, bro. This is posted by the Federal Reserve. This is no joke. This is true data, guys. What else is there to say about this? So our kind of hunch was right in the regard that a lot of that net worth is through building equity. So you take out the homeowners. What if you just rent your house, right? You're worth nothing. And not to say that you should just go, you need to own a home, you need to own a home. Yeah, you probably should buy a home maybe if it's right for you. But even if you are renting, you should be taking, guys, $7,000, you can save that in a year. Take out all your, I don't know. And yeah, I know saving $1,000, you have to take out your liabilities, obviously, but say you do it for 10 years. All right, your liabilities remain stable. $7,000 is probably the biggest joke I've ever seen for somebody's net worth. That is absolutely horrible and probably one of the biggest telling stats. And so when you're striving and you're renting your house, you don't want to be these guys. Try your best not to be those guys, and I really want to push that on you. All right. We're going to look at transaction accounts next, Crain. Transaction accounts include your checking and savings accounts, all right? Because those are what your typical transaction accounts are. Now, for all families, what do you think the average person has in the U.S.? For how much money do they have in the bank is the question here.
Oh, $1,000 or less.
No.
No?
No, they actually have about $5,500.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My face going up.
Yeah, now, but this is families, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
right.
it depends on when you take data, like say they get paid, this person gets $2.5K at the end of the month, this person gets $2.5K, oh boom, now you have $5,000. But it doesn't mean you have any in savings. A lot of that difference is going to be savings, or I guess you could look at it from the flip side and be like, well, whatever money they do have, they invested. But clearly we see that is not the case, guys. So it would be different if you had $5,000 in your account, but you're investing the rest of it. That's just not the case with the typical American that we're seeing here. Now we divvy this up by the age reference of somebody, because under 35. So I'm not going to ask you any questions for this one, but under 35, about $3,000, 35, $4,000, and if you're 75 or older, no, 65 will do, is about $8,000. And $8,000 is not even 6 months worth of emergency savings. So again, that's absolutely atrocious. But these are your average Americans, guys. You can look at these average and compare yourself to them and be like, oh, I am a little bit above that. You don't want to be a little bit above some of these numbers, guys. You want to be way, way above. You want to blow them out of the water. All right. Now we'll do, what other ones do I want to do? So we have a whole bunch of assets here, Jared. What kind of assets do we want to look at? We have certificates of deposit. I'm not going to look at that. Savings bonds, no. Bonds, I could care less about bonds, quite honestly, unless you're 65 and you just want to have cash, so play. Directly held stocks, that would be like our brokerage accounts, that's whatever. Cash value of life insurance,
No.
We'll do, so the next thing, guys, we're going to look at here is the financial assets, then we'll go looking at debt. And, some of these numbers are just so mind-boggling bad that you can't believe that it's reality. And that's the case with the statistical data that the Federal Reserve has posted for the average citizen. It's just bad. What's your guess for this, Joe? The average financial assets by all families. And financial assets, mind you, include your stock holdings. So
let's say 20.
I think cars are financial assets.
Are they? No.
No, those aren't going to be financial. Those are going to be hard assets. Your financial assets are definitely going to be your stock holdings. It's definitely going to be your 401ks. It's going to be your IRAs. It's going to be the cash you have in the bank.
Oh, okay, cash in the bank. Okay.
They're financial assets.
How about that 50 to 60 range?
Yeah, 26,000.
Really? 26,000?
Or maybe they divvy this. See, that's why I would like to see some of the descriptions on these, because if I go to like directly held stocks, or no, we'll go to stock holdings. Yeah, so I guess financial assets doesn't include stock holdings. I don't know what those are then. I mean, either way, it just seems like something that's financial assets being in 26,000 is pretty dog water if you ask me. I mean, I might have to just look up what a financial asset is. I mean, I'm clearly mistaken. The average stock holding, by the way, for the family is about $40,000. I mean, that's still absolutely awful, terrible. Don't even associate yourself with that number, guys. I don't care. So and there's no reason to really divvy this one up per se, unless you want to look at if you make like $100,000 a year, how much does the typical person have in a car installment loan? But the average person has about $13,000 in a loan for a vehicle. Now that's actually not that bad. It's not that bad. It's respectable. I mean, I
think that's the first number. I think that's the first number we've looked at where we've been like, yes.
Yeah, that actually might be the first reasonable number we've seen all day here, guys. Education. Oh, student loan debt. I mean, come on, guys. What's better than looking at student loan? Straight linear graph almost, bro. Absolutely skyrocketing. I already knew this number, though. I think now, I know for a fact it's a little bit higher now as of like 21, but...
It's what, probably like 100, 110,000?
No.
Huh?
The average person is 22,000 in 2019, but I believe the average now, these are averages, not medians, this is the median. I'd say it's about $30,000 now, roughly. So, again, I'm not actually surprised about that number, but that's not to say that it's a little bit higher than you'd like to see. I was lucky. My student loan is $10,000, which is the equivalent of what it was in 1998, by the way. $11,010. I think my student loan, I paid some off, but it was like $11,500. So pretty much 1998 represents me on the dot. We will look at credit card balances. This isn't bad. $2,700.
Oh no, that's not bad.
Until you look at percentile of income, and then I imagine it's going to be absolutely something atrocious. So, no, not that bad. People who make under $20,000 only have about $1,000, $20,000 to $40,000, $2,000, and 40 to 60 is about $2,400. Now, I say it's not that bad, and as I expect it to be a little bit higher, and I have something in my nose here, so I'm trying to get rid of that. But that's not to say that you know that's still a decent amount of money. I mean, credit card debt has a high rate associated with that, high APR. First of all, they're compounded monthly, so absolutely extraordinary rates, and they're like 20-something% compounded monthly. Once you get in one of those circles, guys, you almost never get out. And so with that, these guys are like probably almost close to revolving credit of nearly $2,000 for your average income. And so the average person, again, has about $2,700. And I would say that's actually, it's kind of a lot. For credit card debt specifically, knowing how the average American might go about handling their credit cards, it doesn't seem to me that they're handling them properly in essence. You can have $2,700 if you spend all of your money on your credit card and you use your debit account to then pay that off, and so you can build up points. But let's be real, most Americans aren't doing that. And so we'll give that a thumbs down. I think that's a horrible number. Then let's look at debt overall, and we will exclude housing status. So somebody who is a renter. Not bad, not bad. Only $13,000. And then that, if you're a homeowner, you have about $124,000 left on your installment. So a lot of it's like car, you have some people with the credit cards and stuff, but mixed overall about $13,000 for somebody who rents their home for the overall debt. And so kind of at the end of the day, what you see here is that the average American has some debt, right? Some person might be struggling with student loan debt, some people may have higher credit card debt, other people might have cars or trucks that they want to buy, right? So even with that, it seems like a lot of their money might be going to that, and then afterward they're kind of buying unnecessary items, it may seem. Because if you have such relatively low debt and compared to your annual income, you should be investing that money. And the average American isn't doing that, as you can see. And so even if they have that type of debt, or they have a little bit lower debt than you may expect with those particular net worths, because when I look at a net worth, I'm taking assets minus liabilities. So I'm thinking they probably have a decent amount of assets and a decent amount of liabilities. But no, we see that's okay liabilities. They just don't have assets. They're just not doing anything with their money. And so what's your conclusion from this, Crain?
Well, it's kind of eye-opening to see just how the different numbers are. Of course, seeing, I guess you're asking me these questions, I'm not really looking at what you're looking at, so it's kind of hard to...
And we'll post this, guys, so you can look at this data for yourself as well and divvy it up and look at specifically what you want to look at.
But yeah, I guess it just shows that people really aren't doing too much. I know when people get caught in that Zoom mentality of looking at Instagram and comparing yourselves to others in that regard, well, that's just a highlight reel, because the facts don't lie, and what we're really looking at is you can be a lot better.
Yeah. And when you're looking at these medians, guys, don't strive to just be there. So if you're like, oh, I'm about average of these people. No. If you look at it and you're about average with them, you're not doing so hot. You'd probably be in despair come retirement. A lot of your average person, yeah, they're going to retire, but they're going to be living off of Social Security, their little 401k that they probably hardly invested in anyways, because they're probably too busy trying to spend money on gifts for everybody. What kind of cool things can I get in my house? Let me get the best TV, the best phone right now. And there's nothing wrong with that per se. You just do it diligently. You can have nice things, but make sure your priorities are first, such as retirement. And I think that's kind of the point of this video, guys. Yeah. Alright, well, hope you guys go and look at some of these statistical stats, man. I mean, it's really sad to see, quite frankly. But other than that, this is Millennial Markets. This is Jared. I'm Jacob. Have a green day.